The rainy season in Seattle is always long and gloomy. The rain beats tirelessly against the floor-to-ceiling windows, as if foretelling an irreversible collapse. The flames in the fireplace flickered with orange-red light, illuminating the 9th anniversary dinner for me and Liam. On the table sat the rosemary roast chicken I'd spent all afternoon baking, along with the Cabernet Sauvignon he'd ordered from a Napa Valley winery. Everything looked so perfect, a typical template of middle-class life, until Liam took my hand and with that magnetic voice I had once loved so deeply, destroyed it all. "Evelyn, I have a child out there." The knife I was using to cut the chicken breast stopped in midair, making a harsh screech as it scraped across the expensive bone china plate. I looked up, thinking this was an incredibly sick American joke, but Liam avoided my gaze. His eyes held an evasiveness I'd never seen before, along with a nauseating sense of entitlement. "What did you say?" I heard my own voice, as calm as if I were questioning a subordinate about a data error during a corporate board meeting. "It's a boy. His name is Noah. He's 6. Liam finally raised his head and took a deep breath, as if unloading a heavy burden. It was an accident. That business trip to Portland 6 years ago, back when we had that huge fight about your startup project, I drank too much." "So you just slept with a strange woman and made a child?" I interrupted him, clutching the table knife tightly in my hand, my knuckles turning white. "That was a mistake, Evelyn, I admit, but the child is innocent." Liam eagerly tried to grab my hand, but I shook it off in disgust. He wasn't embarrassed. Instead, he put on a saintly look of compassion. "He has no father right now. That woman, Natalia, it's very hard for her raising the child alone. I want to bring him here to live with us." I froze. 9 years. We've been married for 9 years, always strictly DINKS. We've sat countless times on the beaches of Phuket or in ski chalets in the Alps, rejoicing that we have no children and can enjoy such a free and affluent life. Now, he tells me he wants to bring a 6-year-old illegitimate son back and wants me to play the instant mom too? "Are you kidding me?" I sneered, finally putting down the knife that might have pierced his hand if I hadn't. "Have you forgotten whose name this house is in? Can your so-called freelance income even cover the property taxes for this house?" Liam's face changed. This was his sore spot. Although he claimed to be an independent consultant to the public, in reality, the vast majority of this family's expenses, including that Model X he drives, were supported by my executive salary at a tech company. "Evelyn, how can you be so materialistic?" He frowned as if I were some unreasonable monster. "That's a life. He is my flesh and blood. You've never wanted to have kids, and I respected that. Now that God has given us a complete family, can't you have a little compassion?" "Compassion?" I asked back. "For a husband who betrayed our marriage? Or for a child born to a mistress?" Just then, Mochi, my Samoyed who had just turned 2, ran over with his favorite screaming chicken toy in his mouth. He didn't know about the upheaval currently happening in this home. He just cheerfully wagged that big fluffy tail, resting his head on Liam's knee, craving a bit of petting. We adopted Mochi together from a shelter. Back then, I suffered from mild depression due to high work stress, and it was Mochi who healed me. Liam had also solemnly vowed that Mochi was our child. Yet at this moment, Liam kicked Mochi away as if he were looking at something filthy. "Get lost!" he roared irritably. Mochi whimpered, tucked his tail between his legs, and hid behind the sofa, looking in terror at this male owner who used to be so gentle to him. In that instant, the last shred of warmth in my heart completely went cold. I looked at the man before me, as if looking at a completely strange intruder. 9 years, it turned out, was just a carefully woven scam. He wasn't the partner who respected my choices. He was just a selfish jerk who didn't want kids temporarily because he hadn't had enough fun yet. Now that he's tired of playing or suddenly wants to experience the authority of being a father, he wants to turn my life into his testing ground. I didn't cry, didn't even scream or shout. Years of workplace training let me quickly switch into crisis management mode. I picked up my phone and sent a message to my lawyer bestie Sarah. Initiate Plan B. Then I raised my head, stared straight into Liam's hypocritical eyes, and the corners of my mouth hooked up into a smile devoid of any warmth. Fine, I said. Since you want to be a good father so badly, then let him come. Let me see just what exactly this complete family of yours is. Liam clearly hadn't expected me to give in so quickly. A look of wild joy instantly flooded his face. He excitedly tried to come over and hug me. I knew you were the most reasonable, Evelyn. You're definitely going to like Noah. He's a very smart kid. I sidestepped to avoid his hug, picked up the untouched glass of red wine from the table, and downed it in one go. Don't celebrate too early, Liam. I looked out the window at the pitch-black night and said softly, I hope you and that smart son of yours can get used to living in this house. After all, this is my house, and in my territory, any intruder must pay the price. Just 2 days later, Liam brought that kid named Noah home. It was a Saturday, and I was sitting on that Italian imported calfskin sofa in the living room, dealing with emails on my iPad. The door opened, and Liam walked in holding a little boy by the hand, and behind them followed a woman in a floral dress who looked pitifully helpless. Natalia. That struggling single mom. Evelyn, this is Noah. Liam introduced with a wide grin, completely ignoring my cold stare. And Natalia, she's here to drop Noah off and just to check out the environment. Check out the environment? I think she wants to see if she can worm her way in. I put down my iPad and looked the mother and son up and down. Noah was much stockier than I imagined, wearing a set of obviously brand new Nike sportswear, and his eyes didn't have the timidity I expected, instead carrying a kind of uncomfortable shrewdness and greed. As soon as he entered, his eyes darted around the living room, finally fixing on that crystal ornament on the mantelpiece that I really liked. This is so sparkly, Mom! I want this! Noah shouted, pointing at the ornament. Natalia nervously tugged at his hand, yet didn't stop him, only looking at me timidly. I'm sorry, Miss Evelyn. The child hasn't seen the world. It's okay. He's just a kid. Liam immediately smoothed things over, even walking over to take down that crystal ornament and hand it to Noah. If you like it, just take it and play with it. This is Daddy's house. Everything is yours. I felt my temples throbbing. That ornament was Bohemian crystal I brought back from a business trip to the Czech Republic. Not only was it expensive, it was a memory. That's a fragile item, I said coldly. If you accidentally cut your hand, the medical bills here are very expensive. Natalia seemed scared by my tone, shrinking back a little and hiding behind Liam. Liam immediately shot me a reproachful look. Evelyn, don't be so serious. You'll scare the child. It's okay, Dad. Noah suddenly spoke, his voice shrill and piercing. Does this auntie not like me? I knew it. I'm unwanted. Saying that, he actually managed to squeeze out 2 tears and buried his head in Liam's arms. With acting like that, it's a real shame he isn't in Hollywood. Liam was heartbroken. While stroking Noah's head, he glared at me. Look at you. Look what you've driven the child to. I was so angry I almost laughed. What did I say? I just reminded him that it was a fragile item. Is this that smart kid Liam talked about? This is clearly just a spoiled bad seed, a little demon who knows how to use adult sympathy to get his way. Just then, Mochi, who had been hiding in the room, probably heard the commotion and poked its head out. It saw the stranger, wagged its tail curiously, and wanted to go up for a sniff. Ah, a dog, Noah screamed and jumped up like he'd seen a terrifying monster. The crystal ornament in his hand hit the floor with a smash, instantly shattering into pieces. Mochi was startled and backed away a few steps. Before I could even react, Noah grabbed a remote off the coffee table and hurled it viciously at Mochi. Bad dog, go away, I'll bite you to death. The remote smashed into Mochi's nose with a dull thud. Mochi let out a pained yelp and quickly bolted back into the room. "What are you doing?" I shot to my feet, anger instantly rushing to my head. "It was gonna bite my son." Liam, however, stepped in front of Noah before I could, shouting self-righteously, "What is wrong with that dog of yours? Don't you know there's a kid in the house? What if he got bitten?" "Mochi never bites." I pointed at the crystal shards and the remote on the floor, my voice trembling. "It was your son who started it. Who smashed this crystal? Who threw this remote? It's just a crappy ornament. Who cares if it's broken?" Liam waved his hand impatiently. "Evelyn, can't you get your priorities straight? We're talking about a living, breathing human here, and that thing is just an animal. How can you compare a dog to a person?" Natalia chimed in from the side, her voice soft but barbed. "Yeah, Miss Evelyn, Noah is allergic to dog hair. Could you maybe lock the dog up for now?" Looking at the faces of this family of 3 standing in a united front, I suddenly felt a wave of disgust like never before. In this so-called home, I was already an outsider. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. Blowing up right now would serve no purpose other than making a fool of myself in front of them. "Fine." I nodded, my gaze sweeping over the mess on the floor. "In that case, I'll take Mochi over to my neighbor Ethan's place for a few days, but that doesn't mean I'm going to tolerate this behavior." I walked up to Liam, stared him in the eye, and said, enunciating every word, "Liam, remember what you said. This is a human, and that is an animal. I just hope this human of yours can actually act like a human being." I didn't bother waiting for their reaction. I turned around, went back to my room, picked up Mochi, who was still shivering, and walked out the front door without looking back. The Seattle rain was still coming down. I stood at my neighbor Ethan's door, holding Mochi, and rang the doorbell. Ethan is a young vet and also a really sunny guy. He opened the door, and seeing the bedraggled state Mochi and I were in, the smile on his face froze instantly. "Evelyn, what happened? Mochi is... Could you help me look after him for a few days?" I felt my eyes stinging, but I fought back the tears. "Some filthy things have come to the house." Ethan seemed to figure it out. He didn't ask anything, just reached out to take Mochi and then gave me a warm, firm look. "Don't worry, he'll be very safe here," he said. "If you need any help, call me anytime. I'm right next door." Watching Ethan close the door, I stood in the rain for a little while. Behind me, that house that used to belong to me was now brightly lit, the sounds of that family of 3's laughter drifting out. I clenched my fists. Liam, Natalia, and that Noah. You think you've won? The real show has only just begun. Over the next few weeks, my home turned into a massive, suffocating stage. Liam tried his absolute hardest to play the role of Father of the Year. Every day after work, he'd revolve around Noah, buying him Legos, taking him to the backyard to play soccer, and even starting to learn how to make kids' meals. Keep in mind, he used to find even brewing a cup of coffee a hassle. Although Natalia hadn't moved in, she showed up almost every day using excuses like dropping things off, picking up the child, or Noah misses his mom, strutting in and out of my kitchen as if she were the lady of the house. And I became a superfluous background prop in this home. I watched all this with a cold eye, neither getting angry nor stopping it. I was waiting for that veil of hypocritical warmth to be torn away, revealing the ugly truth underneath. But I underestimated that kid's malice. That day, I came home early from work to grab a file I'd left behind. Just as I stepped into the entryway, I heard Noah screaming from the living room. It was the maniacal laughter of getting his way, mixed with the sound of something shattering. My heart tightened, and I walked in quickly. The scene before me made my blood run cold. My expensive handmade Persian rug was covered in black scribbles and some unknown sticky liquid. That was Noah's masterpiece. And he was holding my limited edition lipstick, scribbling wildly on the rug as if completing some great work of art. What devastated me even more was that Mochi, who was supposed to be staying at Ethan's house, was lying in the middle of the rug, twitching all over, with white foam around its mouth. "Mochi!" I screamed, threw down my bag, and rushed over to pick up Mochi. Its body was shockingly hot, its heart beating like a drum, and its once clear eyes were now a bit unfocused. "What's going on? Why is it here?" I turned to glare at Noah. Noah was startled by my appearance and took a step back, but still stubbornly held his head high. I saw it wandering around outside, so I called it in. I wanted to feed it something. It wouldn't eat, so "What did you feed it?" I looked at the black wrappers scattered on the ground. That was dark chocolate for baking. That kind of chocolate has extremely high cocoa content. To a dog, even a small piece could be a fatal poison. "I gave it candy," Noah said self-righteously. "It didn't even appreciate it and puked everywhere. It's so disgusting." "You lunatic!" I shoved Noah away. He stumbled, fell on his butt, and immediately let out a howl like a pig being slaughtered. "Dad, help! That bad woman hit me!" Just then, the door to the study on the second floor opened, and Liam rushed down. Seeing Noah sitting on the floor crying, he roared at me without hesitation. "Evelyn, are you crazy? You actually laid a hand on a child?" "Laid a hand on him?" I held Mochi, whose eyes were already rolling back, and tears finally burst from my eyes. "Your good son fed Mochi dark chocolate. It's poison. Mochi is dying." "What poison? Isn't it just chocolate?" Liam glanced at the wrappers on the ground and said nonchalantly, "How can a puppy be so delicate? I think you're just looking for an excuse to bully Noah. Look how scared he is." I looked at this man in disbelief. Is this the man who once said he would love Mochi like his own child? Is this the man who betrayed me for a so-called complete family? At this moment, his disregard for life, his indulgence of that evil brat, completely shattered the last shred of illusion I had about him. He's not just a piece of trash. He's a coward with no basic conscience. "Get lost!" I coldly spat out 2 words, holding Mochi as I rushed out. "Where are you going? Stop right there!" Liam tried to grab me. "You have to apologize to Noah." I said, "Get lost!" I whipped my head around, my eyes fierce like a lioness protecting her cub. In that moment, Liam was actually intimidated by my intensity and subconsciously let go. I stormed out of the house, put Mochi in the car, and floored the gas pedal. Fuck the speed limits, fuck the red lights. The only thing left in my world was the sound of Mochi's faint breathing. "Hold on, Mochi. Mommy's taking you to the doctor. Hold on." As I drove, I dialed Ethan's number with trembling hands. "Ethan, help Mochi. He ate dark chocolate, a lot, the baking kind." Ethan's calm and rapid voice came from the other end of the phone. "Don't panic, Evelyn. Bring it to my clinic. I'm preparing the emetics and first aid equipment right now. Keep its airway clear. I'll wait for you." Hanging up the phone, I gripped the steering wheel deathly tight, my fingernails digging deep into my palms. If anything happens to Mochi, Liam, Noah, I swear I will make you pay 100 times over. The incandescent lights of the veterinary clinic were glaring and cold, and the air was filled with the smell of disinfectant and anxiety. I sat on the bench outside the emergency room, still stained with the filth Mochi had vomited up, my hair a mess, like a refugee who'd just escaped from a battlefield. Ethan was inside trying to save him. Through that tightly closed door, I seemed to hear the beeping of the instruments, the countdown of Mochi's life. Half an hour later, the door opened. Ethan took off his mask, his forehead covered in sweat. He walked over to me and gently patted my shoulder. "Out of danger for now." In that instant, I felt all the strength drain from my body, nearly collapsing to the floor. Ethan was quick to catch me, led me to a nearby chair to sit down, and handed me a cup of warm water. Its liver and kidney functions took some damage. It needs to be hospitalized for a few days of observation. There was a trace of suppressed anger in Ethan's voice. That wasn't ordinary chocolate, it was baking chocolate with over 90% purity. 10 minutes later, and even God couldn't have saved it. Evelyn, this wasn't an accident, this was murder. Murder. That word was like a sharp knife, ruthlessly stabbing into my heart. Yes, this is murder. That 6-year-old child, wearing the most innocent expression, was doing the cruelest thing. And his father, that man who should have taught him kindness and responsibility, was an accomplice. Just then, the main door of the clinic was roughly pushed open. Liam stormed in aggressively, followed by that Noah who was still pretending to cry, and Natalia wearing a look of deep maternal protection. "Evelyn, have you made enough of a scene yet?" Liam started shouting as soon as he entered, completely disregarding that this was a hospital that needed quiet. "For a dog. You left the child alone at home and ran out yourself. Do you know how scared Noah was?" I stood up slowly, my hand tightly clutching that empty water cup. Scared? I looked at that boy hiding behind Liam, who was stealing a glance at me with a provocative look. When he fed the dog poison, how come he didn't know fear? When he scribbled all over my carpet, how come he didn't know fear? That's because he doesn't know any better. Natalia cut in, her voice shrill. He thought it was candy. He wanted to share it with the doggy. How can you assume the worst of a child like that? Sharing? I tossed the chocolate wrapper Ethan had saved in front of them. It clearly says baking chocolate right here, and it was on the top shelf of the cupboard. A 6-year-old child, unless he deliberately moved a chair to get it, how could he possibly reach it? If someone hadn't put him up to it, how would he know that was for the dog to eat? Natalia's expression changed for a moment, but she quickly reverted to that victim look. Then you can't blame the child. You're the one who didn't put your things away properly. Besides, isn't it just a dog? We'll just pay you back for one. Pay me back? I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Can you afford to pay me back? Mochi is my family, is my life. But in your eyes, he is just an object that can be trampled on at will. Enough, Liam interrupted me impatiently. Evelyn, you look like a total shrew right now. Hurry up and come home with me. Don't make a fool of yourself here. The doctor already said it's fine. What more do you want? Go home? I looked at this man who disgusted me to the core. Liam, that place isn't my home anymore. It's your den of thieves. What did you say? Liam's eyes widened. Listen. I took a deep breath and pulled a neatly folded piece of paper out of my bag. That was the divorce agreement Sarah had drafted for me long ago, and another, even more deadly document. I slapped that receipt against Liam's chest. Take a good look at what this is. Liam took it instinctively and glanced at it by the light of the hallway. The next second, his face instantly went deathly pale, and he froze on the spot as if struck by lightning. That was a pregnancy termination surgery form. The time was a year ago. The place was Hawaii. What does this mean? Liam's voice trembled, his fingers clutching that paper tightly. A year ago, when we were on vacation in Hawaii, I found out I was pregnant. I said calmly, as if telling someone else's story. I originally wanted to give you a surprise. I wanted to tell you that for you, I was willing to break our DINK agreement, that I was willing to try being a mother. It was dead silent all around. Even Noah, who was still fake crying, stopped and stared blankly at us. But that afternoon, I continued, my gaze sharp as a knife, I saw you on the hotel beach. You were holding this child's hand, with this woman following beside you. You were building sandcastles, laughing so happily, looking so much like a family. At that moment, I knew I didn't deserve to have your child. If my child were born into a family like this, full of lies and betrayal, that would be the greatest cruelty to him. So, I had the surgery. I looked at Liam's face, which instantly aged 10 years, and said, word by word, I killed our child because I didn't want his father to be you. You... Liam pointed at me, his lips trembling, unable to get a complete sentence out for the longest time. The massive shock made him unsteady, and he stumbled back a few steps, only stopping when he hit the wall. Natalia was stunned, too. She covered her mouth, her eyes filled with disbelief and fear. She probably never expected that I could be this ruthless. "Liam, haven't you always wanted a child?" I pointed at Noah, who had a clueless look on his face. "Then stick with your precious son. As for me, I just want my dog. And—" I took a document out of my bag. It was a copy of my property deed, as well as a notarized eviction notice. "This is my house, my premarital property. You have 3 days to take your stuff and get the hell out." After saying that, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. It was like a giant boulder I'd been carrying for so long finally hit the ground. That suffocating gloom in my heart finally vanished into thin air at that moment. I turned around and looked at Ethan, who had been standing silently by my side, guarding me the whole time. "Ethan, I want to take Mochi home, back to my apartment downtown." Ethan nodded and walked over to support me. "Let's go, Evelyn. Let's go home." On this cold, rainy night, I finally took the first step out of the abyss. Behind me were that man's broken cries and the living hell that family of 3 was about to face. That night, after leaving the vet clinic, I took Mochi and checked into a pet-friendly hotel downtown. Ethan insisted on driving me. He didn't speak the whole way, just occasionally glanced at me through the rearview mirror, his eyes filled with worry. "I'm fine." When the car stopped at the hotel entrance, I smiled at him, though that smile must have been uglier than crying. "Really, Ethan, thank you." "Evelyn," he called out to me just as I was getting out, his voice low and sincere. "You know, if you need to move or deal with those scumbags, I'm available any time." I nodded, a warm current surging through my heart. In this absolutely terrible world, at least there were warm presences like Mochi and Ethan to remind me that life is worth living. Early the next morning, I received a call from Sarah. "Well done, Evelyn." Sarah's voice on the other end of the phone was as excited as if she had just won a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. "You know what? That idiot Liam actually dared to call me and ask if he could get half of this house. Is he out of his mind? The prenuptial agreement clearly states in black and white that the house is your personal trust property, and he won't even be able to take a toilet seat with him." "What did he say?" I asked absent-mindedly while feeding Mochi his medicine. What else could he say? He was fuming, obviously, going on about how California is a community property state, and he has the right to split the post-marital appreciation. Sarah sneered. "I just threw the evidence of his affair in Hawaii from a year ago, and that illegitimate child's birth certificate right at him. I told him if he didn't want his reputation in the consulting circle completely destroyed and didn't want to be accused of bigamy, although it's hard to convict, it's enough to scare him, he'd better just be a good boy, sign, and get the hell out." "And another thing," Sarah paused, her tone becoming a bit playful, "that Natalia isn't exactly a pushover. She's consulting lawyers to see if she can squeeze some benefits out of you in the name of common law marriage. I'm not surprised. Greed is the base color of this lot. Once the mask is torn off, their eating manners will only get uglier." "I'm in no rush." I stroked Mochi's soft fur. "Sarah, help me draft an extremely harsh divorce agreement. I want him to leave with absolutely nothing. Even that Tesla has to be taken back. That car was assigned to me by the company. He just has his name on it." "No problem. Leave it to me." Sarah readily agreed. "By the way, that house. What do you plan to do? Are you going back there to live?" I thought about that place, once full of memories, now tainted by that evil brat and that hypocritical man. "I'm not going back." I said, "Put it on the market. Along with the furniture inside, anything they've touched, get rid of it all. I find it filthy." After hanging up the phone, I opened my iPad and connected to the home surveillance system. On the screen, Liam was pacing around the living room like a trapped beast. The coffee table was piled high with empty liquor bottles. That man who usually dressed so sharply now had messy hair. 2 buttons of his shirt undone, looking wasted and pathetic. Noah sat on the carpet, still playing with that remote control, mumbling about wanting McDonald's. Natalia was on the side, complaining incessantly, probably blaming Liam for being useless and unable to even secure a house. Suddenly, Liam snapped. He grabbed a bottle from the table and smashed it viciously onto the floor. "Shut up! Just shut up!" he roared at Natalia. "If you hadn't insisted on bringing the kid here, how would things have turned out like this? Now look, Evelyn is kicking me out and I'm out of money. Are you satisfied?" Natalia was startled, then immediately shrieked. "How can you blame me? You said yourself you missed your son. You said yourself you had a share in this house. Now that you're broke, you blame us helpless mother and child? Liam, are you even a man?" "Am I a man?" Liam rushed over with bloodshot eyes, looking like he was about to hit her, scaring Noah into wailing. Watching this dog-eat-dog farce, I didn't feel a single ripple of emotion. This is the complete family he's been dreaming of. This is the family bliss he betrayed me to get. It's truly ironic. I turned off the monitor, no longer watching this drama. 3 days later was the deadline for the ultimatum. I took Sarah and 2 burly security guards back to the place that used to be home. The door wasn't locked. Pushing it open, a strong smell of alcohol and sour takeout hit me in the face. The living room was a mess, as if it had just been ransacked. Liam was slumped on the sofa, unshaven, his eyes empty. Seeing me come in, his lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but eventually he just hung his head in defeat. Natalia was directing the movers. When she saw me bring people in, she immediately jumped up like a ruffled hen. "What do you think you're doing? This is trespassing. I'm calling the police." "Go ahead." Sarah stepped forward, flashing the lawyer's letter and the eviction notice. It'd be good for the police to see exactly who is squatting in someone else's house. "Ms. Natalia, if you don't take your things and leave right now, I'll press charges for trespassing and property damage. Oh, and that rug your son ruined? It's worth $12,000. I'll be sending you the bill." Natalia's bluster instantly died down by half. She looked to Liam for help, but he didn't even lift his head. "Liam, say something!" Natalia shouted in despair. Liam finally looked up and glanced at me. There was regret in his eyes, reluctance, and a trace of pleading. "Evelyn, is there really no room left? Even for the sake of our 9 years of affection as husband and wife?" "Affection?" I walked up to him and looked down at him. "When you brazenly brought your bastard into this house, when your son poisoned my dog, when you blamed me even knowing I miscarried for you, that affection was already dead and gone. Sign it." I tossed the divorce agreement onto the coffee table in front of him. "Sign it and you can take this car. Consider it the last bit of dignity I'm giving you. If you don't sign, I'll see you in court. By then, not only will the car be taken back, but I'll also hand over the evidence of tax evasion from your so-called consulting firm to the tax bureau." Liam shuddered all over and looked at me in disbelief. How did you know? Have you forgotten what I do?" I sneered. "Big data doesn't lie, Liam. I've had those shady accounts of yours figured out for a long time." Liam picked up the pen with a trembling hand. The moment I watched him sign his name on the agreement, I knew that 9-year-long nightmare was finally over. Just then, Noah, who had been hiding in the room, suddenly rushed out. He was holding a lighter in his hand, a crazy glint flickering in his eyes. "Bad woman! I'm going to burn you to death! I'm going to burn down your house!" He actually tried to light the curtains. "Stop him!" I shouted. The security guard nearby reacted extremely fast, grabbing Noah's wrist and snatching the lighter. Noah struggled desperately, biting and screaming like a mad dog. "Let go of me! I'm a minor! You can't arrest me! I'm going to sue you for child abuse!" This kid is really beyond saving. I looked at that vicious brat pinned to the ground, feeling nothing but deep disgust and desolation in my heart. "Take him away." I waved my hand. "Invite him and his parents out together." The moment the gate slammed shut behind me, I stood on the empty street and took a deep breath of the air after the rain. Although it was still a bit cold, it was incredibly fresh. Mochi stuck his head out of the car and barked at me twice. Ethan stood by the car, giving me a warm smile. "Is it over?" he asked. "No." I shook my head, a relieved smile curling my lips. "It's begun. A new life has just begun." However, just when I thought the dust had settled, fate seemed to have prepared an even more absurd Easter egg for me. A month later, while I was preparing the property transfer paperwork, I received an urgent email from Sarah. The attachment was a paternity test report. It was done by Liam at the court's request to fight for custody. The results showed biological relationship excluded. Noah, that biological son who ruined my marriage, almost killed my beloved dog, and was cherished by Liam like a treasure, actually wasn't his seed at all. I looked at that line of cold test results and couldn't help laughing out loud. I laughed until tears came out, laughed until my stomach hurt. Liam, oh Liam, you ruined your whole life for a bastard. This is probably the greatest retribution God has given you. I forwarded that report to Liam, adding just one sentence. "Congratulations, you don't have to pay child support anymore, but you've also lost everything." As for the look on his face when he sees this report, that's none of my business anymore. Because right now I'm already sitting on a private jet flying to Lake Tahoe. Ethan is sitting next to me. Lying at my feet is Mochi, who has recovered, along with Ethan's big golden retriever. Outside the window, the sun is shining brightly, and there is not a cloud in the sky.